Hello, everybody, and welcome to another daily chat with Andy, the Gabby Cabby. Slightly different lighting tonight, slightly different surroundings. I'm sitting in the house because I got the place to myself. Everyone's been out for the day, and it's just been little old me safe and sound at home. Just pleasing myself. Now, let's have a look who we got in the chat, shall we, before we go any further. We got Saggy Bollocks and the Flabby Cabby in the house, so welcome to you two with those unusual screen names. Tanner Family Memories, hello. Cosmic Wartoad, Blood Nose. John Kent, I saw you messaging about coming back from Bexhill. So safe travels, and thank you for coming in and saying hello. Paul Hoskin, who remembers 11. Yeah, it's either 11-9 or 9-11, depending on what side of the pond you're from, isn't it? Tyrone Whitehead, hello to you. Cosmic Wartoad, hello to you. Spiderlog, hello to you. That's some of the regulars in the chat. We're a little bit thin on the ground, actually. I wasn't actually going to do a chat this evening because of work-related matters, but I thought, considering what day it is, what the hell? It's a strange day, and I heard it said earlier because we're going through this process at the moment where Queen Elizabeth obviously passed away, and then we have this added layer to it where it's September the 11th, the 21st anniversary of probably the worst terrorist atrocity in certainly my living memory. I don't know about all of you guys. Hello, David L. Paul Maskin back, Jerry Georgopoulos, and Cosmic Wartoad. Good to see you all, and Julie Keys as well. That's all right. We've only just got here. Yeah, Cosmic Wartoad. I mean, when it first happened at the time, my opinion was get the bastards who did this and make them pay. That's what I felt at the time. And when I saw them going to Afghanistan, I thought, let's root them out, let's get them, and obviously that led on to Iraq, and we know the rest. And, a war that lasted years and years. John Cotton Classics, hello to you. Yeah, before I go much further, we all stop and think, don't we? Where were we when this happened? What were we up to? And you stop and you look back in time about how you feel about anything. And did you have an involvement? Were you in New York even? Or did you know somebody that got caught up in it? Before we go any further, I want to give two people a shout out, actually. Philip Graham, aka Mickey Mouse 123, evening, buddy. Hello to you. Yeah, I want to give two people a shout out, and I'll show you them now. Let's just share this with you. Now, this is the YouTube channel for Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories, and it's run by two retired NYPD detectives, Bill Cannon and Phil Grimaldi. Bill Cannon was a detective sergeant and retired out of the homicide squad, and Phil Grimaldi was a detective who worked in various places in the NYPD. And between them, they've got something like 50 years worth of law enforcement experience. The thing that binds them both is they were both there as first responders on the day of 9/11. It happened to them there. They responded. Duty Ron is another channel that I watch. Duty Ron, Crime Time with Duty Ron. And again, he was another one who was a first responder. Without hesitation, they just rushed into the danger when everyone was going away. Now, I single out Bill and Phil particularly because they did a show this afternoon, which I was honoured to watch, and they were relaying some of their thoughts and experiences actually from that day, a couple of stories, how they felt, and some of the some of the things to do with the aftermath of what actually happened, and you could see how raw it was. Still talking about it to this day, and they said it wasn't only that day, it was all the health complications and concerns that everybody ended up with after that fact. For example, they were saying that the air was safe to breathe, and it wasn't. It was completely toxic. So a lot of people got cancers. There was PTSD because of everything they saw, plus asthma and all sorts of other complications that all these brave souls have had to live with ever since. And there are charities and organizations set up to, help where they can. I've put a link to this show on the community page of my channel. And I would really suggest going to watch it. It's quite insightful, really. The added bonus to this as well, we did some super chats. A collection of us gave them some money, and Bill did not want a single penny. What he's actually done, and I'll find the name of the charity. Anything that was raised there, he donated it all to a charity that helps, service personnel. It's called Tunnel to Towers, and it's an organisation who helps provide free homes to fallen first responder families with young children to try and help them with their lives. And I thought that was wonderful. Tunnel to Towers Foundation, it's called. And, Bill and Phil donated as well. And with what we did, they managed to raise $356. And I've got a receipt here in front of me, and he just sent the whole thing there more or less immediately after the show. So I thought that was wonderful that we managed to do that. And hopefully that can be done. Now, over here, it was this was a global shock. This affected everybody everywhere, didn't it? It was a Tuesday, as I recall. Back in 2001, I was in my early 20s, and I worked as an IT trainer for a local computer company, thousands of miles away from where all this terror was unfolding. And I remember going into work in the morning, and it was just like any other day. I knew nothing about what was going on, purely because it's it was an environment where we had no access to any TV, radio, anything at all. And it was a 9 to 5 job. And I remember finishing up, and I must have got in my car about 5:20, something like that. A little Peugeot 106 I had, little 1 litre thing. My God, that thing didn't move very fast. And I got in and I turned the keys in the engine, and the radio came on. And the very first words I heard were, "The United States of America has been attacked." And of course, you think all sorts. You think USA attacked. Is something bad about to happen? Is World War III about to start? And I thought, what do I do? What do I do? And I thought, well, the best thing I can do is go home. And that's exactly what I did. I went home as fast as I possibly could. And luckily, there was no traffic that day. I remember it very, very vaguely indeed. And I ran through the door, and I remember my mum, obviously Jean Whitehead, Avon lady representative, who you all know, was sat in front of the telly. And I remember the sheer look of horror on her face. And I looked at the telly, and it was the first time I saw it. The image I saw was the plane going into the first tower, and you could tell straight away that it was some kind of terrorist atrocity. I mean, I'll warn you, I'm about to put something rather graphic on the screen, so turn away if you don't want to. That is what I came home to. That was the reality of what was going on that day in New York. Awful. And on the ground, people were trying to get away, trying to get as far away as they could from that place. And meanwhile, all the emergency services people were responding, trying to save as many as they could. It was a surreal day. And I remember my mum saying, my God, there's going to be a war. And I suppose indirectly, there was for, well, most days ever since. We had friends in our family that were there on the day that happened. When the first plane went in, we were told there was a terrific bang, crash. And the husband went outside to see what was going on and looked up and could see all the debris falling down and everything else, and thought, I've got to get out of here. We've got to get us and the family away from this place now. And that's what they did. And they managed to get across the other side of the Hudson River just before the collapse happened of the first tower. So they were very, very lucky. Back in the UK, I went to work the following day, and that's all they could talk about on the radio, what happened in New York the day before. I mean, this is the 12th of September, 2001 I'm talking about now. I walked in and picked up my class and was just teaching them how to use a computer. At the time, I was teaching groups of, women who just had babies and were stay-at-home mums. And we wanted to train them, get them a computer qualification and get them back to work. And this was a contract I was doing. And I remember I was at my desk just filling in some paperwork and some examination material. And all of a sudden, one of the ladies in the class, her phone rang. And I'll never forget it. She suddenly burst into hysterical tears and ran out of the classroom. And because obviously I was a male, and that situation, I thought it probably isn't appropriate that I go immediately. So one of her friends in the group, I asked her to go and check on her. 10 minutes went by. I went out and said, are you okay? What's happening? And the phone call was her being informed that a member of her family was on one of the planes that went into the towers, obviously dead instantly. So that horrific day, in a way, touched my life in that classroom. It touched one of my students. It was global shock. It affected everybody somewhere. I mean, they were saying that earlier on that they still haven't identified everybody. If you Google it, you will learn that they're still trying to identify people even today, over 20 years later. It was an absolute tragic event. Listen, everybody, this is the Daily Chat with Andy the Gabby Cabby. Thank you for coming along, everybody. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button on the chat. That'd be great. Let's get that up. And subscribe if you're new here and you're just watching for the first time. I've not monetized this live stream in any way whatsoever. It's just a chat. I left monetization turned off. It's not really appropriate to make money off the back of, a subject like this. So we're purely just chatting. I mean, Bill Cannon immediately said we're super chats when, when people were giving them, he was going to donate every penny, and he did. I've got the receipt there. He showed what he did. Nearly $356 to it was $356 exactly to a worthwhile charity that helps first responders families. Now let's have a look, see what people are saying. In Afghan, there is parts of the building buried by the USA. True. Uh, yeah, I need to do another updated piece on that, Tony. Definitely. Uh, Thank you, Barefoot Contessa. Just wanted to talk about it, really. What I remember are the jumpers. That was terrible. Yeah, it was. I remember that too. And I remember when the planes went in, but basically, I think everybody above that point, I think they made the decision on the ground or come to the realization they probably weren't going to be able to save any of them. And, just try to concentrate on all the lower floors. That was my understanding. And people were, probably in the thing, do you burn to a crisp or do you jump? And that's what they did. And also, I remember some footage when the New York Fire Department turned up, as many of them as they could. They were straight into the towers. Now, I understand the difference in the training between our fire brigade and the American fire brigades, particularly FDNY. They get in quickly and forcibly push the fire out, get rid of it. And, they were doing what they were trained to do. And there was one firefighter, his name escapes me, actually made it all the way to the top floor and actually saw people that were trapped up there. And he never lived to tell the tale, because when he got in there, the whole thing came down shortly thereafter. Yeah, David L. True heroes, all of them. There are so many stories that day. I mean, there was another one, amazing survival story. One of the problems with the fire department, there were communication problems. I think was the answer. In each tower, there was supposed to be repeaters operating, signal repeaters. So, the control could talk to the guys in the tower, i.e., if they told them get out of there, they got out of there. And I don't think, from what I read, there was, they were working properly. So a lot of those firefighters may not have got any signal telling them to get out. And I remember one particular fire crew was, being led by a young lieutenant at the time, looked out of a window, I think, and identified that they were in imminent danger. And he made the call himself, out, we're going. And they proceeded to go down the stairwell, as fast as they could. And then they came across a lady who was in the stairwell, and her leg was hurt. And initially they were going to carry on going, and then they turned around and said, "We can't leave this woman. We can't leave her here." So they went back for her, and just as they went back for her to try and get her out, that tower they were in collapsed. And what actually happened, the effect of this, the point they were, when the tower collapsed, it pancaked, one floor after the other on the other, all the way down. And there's such a concussive force that anybody caught in that, totally pulverized. But when you get down the bottom, hi Lorraine, good to see you. When you get down the bottom, the force momentarily kind of wears out to a point it's actually survivable. And that's the point where they were, because they had to go back for this lady. And looking at the analysis afterwards, if they were a floor higher or a floor lower, they'd have all been dead. Now, this lady died years later. I think she had cancer, and everyone turned up to her funeral. She was known as their angel, because if they hadn't gone back for her, they wouldn't be alive. Amazing survival story. Yeah, Stairwell B, David L. That's it exactly. Now, I understand in the 9/11 museum, that stairwell was actually preserved in there as one of the artifacts from what I was reading, and I was saddened to learn today that closed permanently in this year, and I always wanted to go and see it. So, yeah, unbelievable to think there are young people who aren't even familiar with 9/11 because they don't talk about it in school. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. I mean, every year it gets another year further away. I always just sit down and think about it. Think about that lady in my classroom. Think about, your thoughts at the time and the horror of what was going on the ground at that time for everybody that was there. And we remember it, but you have a generation of kids which don't so much because they weren't there, they weren't alive at the time, they weren't born, and you have to wonder what they are being taught. I mean, to me, this is part of our history. It was horrific. It really was horrific, and if it shouldn't be forgotten, because if you forget, uh, then those people's memories in time will disappear. It's a lot like our war veterans, with all the stories one by one over the years. They get old, they pass, and they should never be forgotten. 9/11 should never be forgotten because of the memory of the people that lost their lives that day, and also the memory of the first responders who risked their all to go in and try and save who they could. I remember probably a couple of years ago now, if that, I was looking up some information on 9/11, and there was a picture there, the Twin Towers, and Jack came up to me and said, "What's that, Daddy?" And I sat him down and I explained to him the significance of the picture and what happened. And, in his young way, he understood it. And, that's what we need to do. We need to relay this information to future generations, so those that died are never forgotten. They can't be. It's impossible. You know, as impossible as it was 21 years ago. Uh, and as I said in a video I did about this that came out earlier, you will think, where was I on that day? I mean, my ex girlfriend at the time, don't tell the wife, shh, she saw it on the telly in the middle of the street. And, everybody wondered what the hell was going on. It looked like something out of a disaster movie. David L., it changed the world, lest we forget. You're absolutely right. Lorraine, my friend, Captain Timothy Stackpole, was a hero. Yep. There was a story of a guy that worked security for a firm in 9/11. Again, his name escapes me, but he was a retired soldier, fought in Vietnam at the Battle of Ia Drang, and he got all the company employees out of there, but he refused to leave. He just wanted to go in and keep helping people out. And he was last seen going back in when the tower came down, and never to be seen again. Another example of a hero. There are loads of heroes, all of them. Yeah, Lorraine, I knew 3 people who died that day. I mean, you're a New Yorker, aren't you, Lorraine? Obviously not living there now, but, it touched everybody. Their tower block in Cardiff that built on the same construction as the Twin Towers in New York. Okay, interesting. I wonder if it's the same architect or the same design. Just having a look back through the chat to see what I've missed. People making comments. Yeah, Paul, I knew people that went up there. I knew people that went up there, and I've seen the photos, and the view is absolutely magnificent. I don't know whether you can do the same thing with the tower that they've put in place there. I mean, they've got these giant waterfall stroke water feature type things, haven't they, now, in the footings of where the original towers used to be, with the names of all of the victims on there. Yeah, Mick, that was heartbreaking when that came out. And good to see you here, by the way. Hope you're okay. There's a few people in the chat that are making conspiracy theory type remarks. I'm not going to call you out specifically or read what you've put, but there is an awful lot of material online, isn't there, with regard to what the real motive behind it was and who the real organisers were and everything else. I mean, by God, I've read a fair chunk of it myself, but at the end of the day, it was a tragedy. It was a catastrophic act of terrorism that killed nearly 3,000 people. And you Google it, they're still trying to identify and look for people even now. It was nuts. We thought the first hit was a legitimate accident, and the second hit happened. Then we knew they both collapsed over the course of the next few hours. Yeah, was there a rumor that the first plane was a Cessna? That I seem to remember that very, very vaguely, and then it obviously wasn't. Paul, I watched it as it happened. I was sick that day and didn't go into work. It was the look of horror on my mum's face that I'll always remember. She was just sat there frozen on the sofa. I think her brain just couldn't process what she was seeing. I must admit, I was very much the same. Wow. Andy the Gabby Cabby, headline in our paper. Mastermind of 9/11, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, was still awaiting trial. He's at Guantanamo Bay. It's a very complicated legal this and that. Well, if he was there and he's guilty and there's an admission, what's the problem? Why? I don't get that. Spiderlog, I was in my bedsit at the local YMCA when I heard about it, told the staff in Main YMCA. They put it on the public area of the YMCA Community Centre. Freedom Guy, of course, we're much wiser now. This wasn't the start of the war on terror. It was the start of a long campaign to keep us terrified and controlled. Well, the Freedom Guy, the narrative certainly changed that day, didn't it? And for some reason, it still is to this day, that narrative of fear and watch yourself. I mean, one thing that Bill actually turned around and mentioned was the security on the airlines was non-existent before 9/11, which made it a lot easier to carry out. And after that, you're not allowed liquids on and all that sort of thing. Crazy. Angela Gardner just got in, but 11/9/2022 did not realise it's the American way. Yeah, we do day month. They do month day, don't they? It was nuts. I was living in Florida, but all my family just 15 minutes out of New York City. The company owner picked me up, chair and all, took me into a conference room and said, "Call your family." Jesus. Yeah, valid point, Stephen. I get you. I mean, there was some injustices in there, wasn't there, where people were in there and they shouldn't have been. I remember a couple of cases where people were held for a long period of time and treated appallingly, and it turns out they were innocent. Okay, I spoke out of turn. I'm just theorizing as to, the guy's involvement. Just stating facts. Bobcat 1967. Well reported. Cosmic. Some of them might have been innocent farmers or goat herders who got swept up in the lynchings. Yeah, could well have been. This is the daily chat with Andy the Gabby Cabby, everybody. We're literally just having a chat about 9/11 being 21 years ago today. And there doesn't seem to be an awful lot reported about it in the mainstream media. I found earlier some obscure link to a speech that Joe Biden made on BBC, and that's really about all I could find, all I could share. We're wall-to-wall coverage on Her Majesty the Queen, which is fair enough, but all the other news just completely evaporated, and it's very hard to look for anything. I have 3 other stories coming out tomorrow in the morning from 9 o'clock, and it was quite hard to find them because it was crazy. David L. Israel, even in the 70s, would take out all your luggage and no bombs or hijacks. Still do it now. Feel free to share the live stream with your friends, everyone. Yes, please do. Thank you, Rafi. Oh, yeah. We can't forget that, Stephen. That was a briefcase full, wasn't it? That was well publicised. Adam, I walked through the door that day. My mum said, God, look, back then there was lots of buildings dropping, mainly in Middle Eastern fighting, until I came back in. Then it sunk in. Yeah, DB, it's not looking good here. It's really not looking good. The pound has really skyrocketed. I mean, as if skyrocketed downwards. I mean, nosedived, I think, was the real thing. The unfortunate thing is, I pay for some services and some bits and pieces in American dollars, so I'll be interested to see the exchange rate now. Yeah, Lorraine, I did get your email yesterday, by the way. I got a chance. Well, it gets delivered to my laptop, so I only see when I check it. And I did have a read this morning, so I will respond to you when I get a moment. But thank you for the update, and I'm glad you're okay. It was a terrible crisis, but that's life. I lost my son and no one cared a shite, and lost my dad 2 years after. By the way, my mum is 96 and found it hard the Queen was gone. Everybody, everywhere has something, don't they? The death of your son, Angela, I just couldn't imagine. I know you said before, you're not supposed to bury your children, are you? It's awful. Now, you get events like this, and it makes you think about your own life, doesn't it? And what goes on. Lorraine, I worry for my friends in the UK who may not be able to heat their homes. It's a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, they've frozen the energy bills at $2,500 a year, the price cap. But no, I think we're still going to get major problems here. We really are. But that's what it is. My gran went to the memorial a few years back. She said it was completely silent. I've never been to New York in my life. I'd like to go, and one day, if possible, and see that. Maybe it will. Digital-only currency incoming. You'll be told that due to the Queen's death and the appointment of the King, our cash will need to be altered. Be told it's too expensive to alter the notes and coins. There'll be a video on that coming out tomorrow, Tony, what the official word is on that. That's going to be released sometime tomorrow morning. But yeah, you might have a point. You might have a point there. Anyway, folks, we're at 35 minutes. I'm going to need to go because I just wanted to come on quick and talk about this with everybody. It's good to see you all. Thank you for coming along. If you haven't done so already, make sure that like button's hit. And I think it's very, very important that the more years that go by, so there's more years between then and now, we need to make sure that every generation knows what happened, because those people need to live on in our memories, not only those that were lost, the law enforcement personnel that did everything they could under nightmare, impossible circumstances from now until the end of time. It's one of those. I don't know what you think. Leave the comments in the comments feed. Anything else you want to say, share it about and everything. New content coming out tomorrow, by the way, from first thing in the morning. And I'll be on for a live natter later on in the day. Until then, toodaloo.